Now, in many modern vehicles, like this Ford EcoBoost, it's very important to make sure the intake valves are clean because they have what are called GDI engines. Now, in GDI engines, which stands for gasoline direct injection, the injectors spray gas directly into the engine cylinders, not in the intake manifold. Now, in an older fuel injection system like this Toyota, the fuel injectors sit on top of the intake manifold. They spray gas that goes over the intake valves and then is sucked into the engine. So you can see in this head that I pulled off, gasoline is sucked into the intake, goes into the valve, and it actually can clean the valve because gasoline is a very good cleaner. Now, in a GDI engine, the gasoline is sprayed with super high pressure injectors directly into the cylinder. It bypasses the intake valves so they can get a lot of deposits on them and clog up your engine. But you can clean these deposits yourself using a CRC GDI intake valve cleaner. Now, the can itself has very good directions, but here's the basics that you need to do. You start up the engine and let it warm up to operating temperature. Then you find a vacuum line that goes to the intake to spray the cleaner in. In this old car, the vacuum brake booster line is here. It's real easy to get to. But the brake booster on this Ford is hidden way back inside. You'd have to take half the car apart to get to it. So we'll find a different vacuum line for that. We're gonna go right under here. There's a big vacuum hose here that we can use. And since there's not even filming room in there, here's what I'm gonna be doing. Pulling off the vacuum line, getting a little rag like this, sticking it in the end of the open vacuum line, then getting a cleaner wand and pushing it the whole way through so it's now inside here and we can spray the cleaner into the engine. Then with the engine running about 2,000 RPM, you spray the cleaner in short bursts until the can is completely empty. It takes a few minutes. Then once the can is empty, you rev the engine up 2 or 3 times. Then let it idle for about a minute and shut the car off. And then you let the warm engine sit and the cleaner will heat soak about an hour so it can soften any other parts off and make it clean. And lastly comes the easy part. You just drive the car fast at highway speeds for about 10 minutes to clean it all out. So if you're worried about intake valve deposits on your modern car, now you know what to do about it. Now, cars can burn oil for lots of reasons, but one of the most common ones today is a bad or clogged PCV valve. Now, PCV stands for positive crankcase ventilation, and here's how they work. When the engine's running, the pistons go up and down, and they create a lot of pressure inside the block of the engine. And if that pressure isn't released, the seals will blow, you'll have all kinds of problems. Now, in the olden days, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, and I was a young mechanic, the old cars just had a hose that came off of the crank, and it would vent it right into the atmosphere, but that's polluting, so now the cars burn it instead. The vapor from inside the engine is sucked in through the PCV valve and is burnt through the intake manifold, and then it just comes out the exhaust with the rest of the gas. But as they get old, a lot of times these valves will get clogged up, and when they do, then it sucks oil with that crankcase gas into the engine and burns a lot of oil. So it's a good idea to change or clean your PCV valves every once in a while. So let's find out where it's hiding on this Honda. Well, it's really hidden away, so we got to take the cover off. Then we have to follow the hose, and it goes down here, right down to the bottom, and right in the bottom here is the actual valve. There it is. So it's no wonder they get dirty and clogged up when they hide them like that. Most people don't even know they exist, so they never check them. Now, they're easy to change. Just grab the little clamp with a pair of pliers and pull that out of the way. Then pull the hose off that gives it vacuum power. And then be logical like me. Buy a new one first, then you know what size socket to get on it so you can get it off right. Then it just easily goes on, and you take it off. Now here's the old one, and here's the new one. Guys used to shake them to see if they rattle, and this one rattles a lot more, but really, since they only cost about 10 bucks, it's a good idea to change it out every 3 or 4 years, or take it out every year or 2 and clean it with carburetor spray cleaner. Like I say, personally, I change them because they have a lot of nylon plastic parts inside, and they can warp from the heat, so just replace it every 3 years or so. It just goes back into the hole. Make sure it's nice and snug with a socket. Put the vacuum line back on. You might have to wiggle it a little. Then slide the clamp back on. Then stick the cover back on. Even though it really doesn't serve any purpose, I personally find these things ridiculous. They're just for show. It's so easy, even your cat could do it if she had opposable thumbs and wasn't so lazy. So if your engine's burning a lot of oil, first thing you want to check is your PCV valve. Then pray it's not the rest of your engine wearing out. Okay, today we got a Subaru Outback that stalls out. You drive it, step on the gas, it has a tendency of conking out. The guy bought it a couple months ago. He's happy with it otherwise. So let's try to figure out what's wrong here. Now it's a 2012 Subaru Outback, and as we can see by the VIN, number 4 is made in the United States. It has 117,754 miles. It's all-wheel drive, and it's a partial zero-emissions vehicle. Now, there's many things that can make a car conk out when you come to a stop and run okay otherwise. We're going to look under the hood for the simple things first. Vacuum leaks can cause it, so let's listen for vacuum leaks. I don't particularly feel any, and I don't hear anything, so let's pull out the air filter. And indeed, the air filter's all black and clogged up, so we're going to change the air filter first. Dirty air filter will give you problems. But rather than guess anymore, we're going to get out my auto here. We'll get a good analysis of what's making it conk out. It already detected it. Okay. We'll do a standalone diagnosis. Now it's starting to analyze stuff. And we'll do a full scan. While we're doing a scan, we'll look inside. It's a nicely set up car. You know, got a nice classic setup. There's the clock up there. Older, so it's got a CD player. Check it out. And the seats are in decent shape. The headrest is missing. Somebody took them away. Everything's green. We'll see what happens. Start with obvious things. If there's a code for a problem, there's a problem. You fix that first, if it has to do with the running of the car. Now, if this said something about a problem with the right front window, that doesn't have anything to do with the car stalling out when it comes to a stop. So we would ignore that. But you gotta start with the basics. And since the guy just bought the car a couple months ago, I'll give him a good idea of what shape it's in. It's only got one fault. Tire number 4, air pressure. That's not gonna make the car stall out. That's not the problem. We'll check all the pressures just to make sure it's safe for driving, but that's not going to make a car conk out. And after checking the tire pressure, they're all normal anyway. So one of those sensors is probably squirrely on number 4. Who cares? Tire pressure gauges are cheap. Just detect the pressure once in a while. But it's dying out for some reason. We got to figure it out. We're going to go to the engine system, and we're going to look at live data. A lot of live data. Start looking and seeing what's happened. The air fuel correction is only minus 0.8. It's running just a tad rich, but not much. That's almost perfect. You can see that's going pretty steady. 2.35 grams per second. There's nothing wrong with that. So we'll just look through. And like I say, look, 1 is perfect. It's only off a tiny bit. 1.00 is perfect. So you can see the air fuel correction, 0. It's not correcting anything. It's working fine. Realize this is a partial zero emission vehicle, runs extremely lean, and even a little bit off can make the engine conk out every once in a while. I'm putting a can of Bernie's ATS fuel cleaner in the tank when I take it for a ride. Could be as simple there's a little carbon buildup, and that'll clean it up. From what I see here, other than a dirty air filter, it's not particularly correcting anything at all. It's not overheating, the cooling fans are coming on, but this is something I have against Subaru. If you notice, there's no temperature gauge. It's got a mile per gallon estimator, but it only has an idiot light. There is no temperature gauge, and I don't like that. We'll turn the key off and we'll turn the key on. It does not have a temperature gauge. It's only got a warning system if it overheats. Down there, see? If it overheats. Then it's too late. Come on, Subaru. Put a temperature gauge back on your cars. Give us a little information about our cars. That's very important. You got a car, runs in the middle all the time, you know something's right. It starts going 3/4 and higher, you know something's going on. This stupid thing won't tell you that. It'll only tell you when it's overheated, and it's too late then. Subaru, you do not need to make them that cheap. Now, sometimes if a transmission has a problem, say the torque converter is locking up or sticking, that can cause a stall. So, let's check out transmission data. There's a CVT transmission, which I'm not a particular fan of. But let's look at the live data. Voltage is fine, it's got plenty of power. All the data looks good, it's black, it's not off. Now we'll try a trick in that. We'll put it in gear. Now it's got a load. We'll give it a little load with the foot on the brake. so it doesn't move. And we'll see if any of this data gets squirrely. No, it's all staying within parameters. So let's take it for a spin. I have a manual override, so I'm going to rev the engine higher than normal since I have Bernie's cleaner in the tank to help clean it out while we drive it and go and get an air filter. So by keeping it in low, see, we can make it go up and down, but what we're going to do is we're going to put it down so it revs higher and the cleaner will do its job better. The faster the cleaner runs through, the better it's going to clean. I like those fake shifts. See, it says second gear, but it doesn't have any gears, so it's kind of crazy, but that's how the engineers made it. Now we're back in first. Anybody coming? Nobody's coming. Here we go. We'll come to a stop. Put it in first gear. And here we go. Look, a hawk. You pick something up. We'll leave it in third at 4,000 RPM. The more RPMs, the more it's going to clean. This might stop it from stalling out entirely. See, the speed limit here is 40, so I'm going 40 in the fake second gear, so it's going about 4,000 RPMs, which is going to really help clean the engine out. And now we got the air filter in, we're coming home, keep the RPMs up, and there's nobody behind us, so we'll slam the brakes on, see if it stalls out, and nothing. Idles like a dream. So it certainly seems fixed. If you want to clean your engine and fuel injection system, you can keep it in a lower gear, even though this really doesn't have gears. It's a pretend second gear, but when we're going 40 miles an hour, we're going about 4,000 RPMs. Drive it that way for half an hour, 45 minutes, it'll generally do a pretty good job cleaning stuff. So there you have it, a smooth idling engine, it's not shaking. A little bottle of Bernie's cleaner and a fuel tank and an air filter, and the car's running like a top now. Sometimes it's just the simple things that can fix a car. Dirty air filter, some carbon built up in the engine. Because realize this particular car, being a partial zero emissions vehicle, runs relatively lean, and if you get any little bit off, when you come to a stop, they can conk out. When you're going at highway speeds, you can really lean them out. You're going fast, the engine's spinning, so a little bit off isn't going to hurt it. But with one of these, if you're just a little bit off at idle, it can conk out, and then just a new air filter and a little cleaner can fix it. So this Outback really wasn't a bad deal. 100-something thousand miles, still runs good. Now it's not stalling out, but it was running almost perfectly, hardly any fuel trims at all. Some of it was zero, no adding or subtracting fuel. So rather than taking it to the dealer where they probably would have charged them $1 million to do all kinds of made up stuff, all I had to do was change the air filter and a little cleaner in the tank. And that's why I make these videos, to show people how they can save money. Most mechanics charge $150 to $200 an hour, right? There's a lot of stuff you can do yourself with just a little bit of knowledge. Car doesn't stall out anymore, easy fix. Plus now, he's gonna be happy knowing that I looked at the engine and the transmission data and saw it's actually in pretty good shape. I'm not a CVT fan, and that weird fake gear, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I mean, they're faked. There's no gears in the transmission. Kind of a weird design, but I do have to say, it did let me clean it faster by leaving it in the fake second gear, so it spun faster when I was driving at 40, and it cleaned it all up. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.